I love this question because I just wanted to say, am I the first speaker who's like not speaking English as first language? Maybe I'm also an immigrant. Was there anybody else here? So all about inclusion, like equity right now in the morning. So that's why I also brought my slide. That's going to help me. And so I'm going to read a little bit off, perhaps, but I'm here to share a very personal story about how art helped me to communicate science better and made me a better science educator. So my name is Marizzi. I'm from Cold Spring Laboratories. I'm a science educator and trained geneticist. I live in New York City since a couple of years. And as part of my work, I develop whole frameworks, which is student-centered, citizen science, biodiversity research. So it's all about from science brain, how to break this down, bring this to other audiences and students. But it's actually, training scientists to be like training a general audience to be a scientist. So I direct 2 citizen science programs that are being replicated worldwide, and I see my role is in like bridging science and society by bringing the science to unlikely places. For example, I also proudly wear my science pins. I don't know Christine Liu, she's in the audience. This pin, that we all have and got, science for everybody, I really like to wear my science pin and create some stories around this, because a lot of people approach me on the subway, hey, what is this? And I tell them stuff like, hey, this is the universal influenza vaccine, and do you believe in vaccines, and all those things. So it's just really fun for me to create this one. But more recently, I explored, art is a soft way of scientific inquiries. I don't know how to get to the next slide here. They allowed me to have one slide and take advantage of that one. I just like pin down here, or thank you so much. Okay, so I want to tell you a very personal story about how I learned, to use art, especially bio art, as a medium of soft scientific storytelling. I say soft because I'm so trained in hard science. Data. The beautiful graph is what's going to intrigue me, But it all started off when I was approached by a biotech company actually in Austria, so I'm Austrian native, and they were looking for a person who can do a hands-on activity or maybe an artwork, a 3D artwork about infectious disease. And this is the big face and nose you see on the top left, the Vienna Science Festival. So I designed together with an artist a face you can open. The left side was regular, you see anatomy. On the right side, I actually had Velcro, and we had like a lot of attendees coming in and just like bombard the Velcro with little globular balls, which would be the viruses. So we actually brought an activity together with, what kind of face that is, and it just really helped me to communicate science. It also helped me to get to people that actually would otherwise not show up. So it was a science festival, but it was actually in the middle of a street art fair, and we got like so many people coming over and just doing these activities. We have one of the most popular ones because I don't know, I don't have students, I don't have kids, and I've been working with students, but students are never, and kids are never going to show up to a fair and see, what can I see? They're always going to ask you, what can I do? And the feedback that we got in Vienna, there's not much hands-on science. We have one location, but every time you go to a science fair, it's kind of a crafty. They really like this one. And my highlight was when I actually had a birthday party coming over. They just saw this, and then they just totally wanted to be scientists and be the virus affecting us. So this was one thing. Then coming back to New York, I realized actually there are a lot of meetups of people outside of science that are intrigued by biological systems. So I was part of the core working group. It was called Nodes and Networks in New York City, led by Heather Barnett. She's a science communicator and artist in London, with London Laser. And she brought people together to actually explore the city as a superorganism, which was really fascinating because, she brought architects together, science communicators, there were people from the Met Media, different museums, and, we played around with agar, with like bee structures, with exploring, microbes. It was just really fun. And then highlight was to actually ask people to play out and act with biological systems in public spaces like the park. And that also, just this collision between art and science and people being creative, there was a really nice overlap for me to learn how to communicate my science better. And that was really what helped me in the next project. So I was approached by people from GenSpace, and there was the open call from the New Museum Idea City Festival. And their call for that year was the Invisible City. And at this time, there was also this paper by Chris Mason right across the street about the New York City subway swabbing, where they claimed you can find all microbes around New York City, and people kind of like afraid. So we used this as a platform to invite people from the general public to actually paint a collective artwork using live microbes and make a painting of New York City. But what we did is, we did not only go to a street festival, we totally stripped the whole project from scientific lingo. So we framed it as an art, crafty experience. We had scientists and artists working together, which was really interesting because I'm a scientist. I wanted to get the science right, they wanted to get the art right, and in the little space, the gray area between, you're gonna listen to the other side, but like what other people said just before me, this is when, the real interaction is going to happen. This is how we can just work together. So we brought this out there, and it was just really nice to see, how people show up, don't know that they're gonna talk about science and do science in a couple of seconds. We told them this is an invisible paint. You are gonna get gloves on because you have some live microbes in there, which was the first question. Oh my God, I thought they're only bad. So just talking about what people are afraid of by exposing them to, well, we move away from the germ theory of disease, you can just use this, to make something really beautiful, like artwork which is living and breathing. So that was really one thing that really touched me. So the New York City biomap was then later on submitted to the ASM AGART competition, and I don't know if the ASM representatives are here. Maybe we can talk to her later on exactly. So and we won second prize that year, and the picture really stuck into a lot of people's heads. And you can maybe talk to ASM later on. It really helped them to find a segue how to speak to people from community labs to bring this hands-on activity and also this way to talk about microbes and microbiology to people that are actually might be intimidated by going to a classic institution like I'm from Cold Spring Harbor. A lot of people don't want to talk to me because I represent an institution. So working as a community lab is actually different. And the second thing is also to find a way to speak to people that might otherwise be intimidated by science and find another way into, to do some really, really nice science outreach. So because this activity was successful, I figured, okay, maybe we should actually take this up as one of our programs at the DNA Learning Center. And because we really did something always which is focused and zoomed in on DNA, but why not play around with something crafty? So we opened our space for an overall series of Saturdays, and we had the house full. I never seen anything so successful like this before. Artworks that have been created in my workshop, they also won the egg art contest again and again, which is also really interesting for me to see this hidden creativity. And the butterfly down there, it was done by a 10-year-old student. So she was totally great. So the lesson that I found out about this one, when you are, I've been working in science education since 12 years, okay? And I think I can go out there and talk to people about science, and I love science, and people feel see, I'm really passionate about this one. But you really have to go out there one day and just try to find an area where you're going to struggle. I know we all know it, but we don't do it. And just talking to artists, it was not easy, believe me. And it really taught me stopping being such a scientist and sometimes go out of my science brain and go into people's hearts. So doing art helped me to let art do the talking, because a picture speaks to you more intuitively and more interesting than me lecturing you about microbes and I don't know, Pete Mondrian, Broadway Boogie Woogie, and we use a reductionist approach to have the waterways and all these things, and you just use this tracing of your eyes by just jumping up and down. So no, forget about this. A picture is just going to draw people in differently, and that's actually really helped me to be a better science educator and talk about, reach people that they're actually going to talk about the fears on another level. So that's what I wanted to share. Hopefully that made sense, and I'm happy to take any questions. Question?
It's more of a comment because STEAM, of course, is becoming
Yes,
a thing.
I didn't mention STEAM, but yes, it's a STEAM activity.
Yeah, and listening recently to Mae Jemison, an astronaut, she was a dancer her whole life, is a dancer. And just how the creativity of the art form informed her work as a researcher. And those things are not opposite or separate. They are necessary together.
I do see it as complementary as well. And I'm very inspired by Eric Kandel, who wrote 2 wonderful books about art and science. And I met him recently, and he says, you just keep doing this. He saw this picture, and he said, you just keep doing this. And well, I did this all in my free time, by the way. This is my little side project, but maybe I should just do more of this. Free time. Never free time is science education. It's true.